Hello and what is up YouTube? My name is G3 Iron and today we are talking about crafting for profit in our second episode series on Path of Exile Business. Today we're in class 102. In other words, how to create items that appeal to a broad audience. For those of you who are new to the channel, welcome. You can go ahead and like, subscribe, and ding the bell to be notified about future discussions just like this one. And if you're a veteran of the channel, then welcome back. I look forward to interacting with all of you down below in the comments. In our POE business class, we've been looking at 3 rules of profit. The first one was selling items at a greater value than the cost of creation. That ensured profit, and that's what we looked at in our first episode of this 3-episode discussion series. If you'd like to revisit that particular discussion, you can do so, and there are links down below in the video description for you to quickly access that episode. The second rule of profit was to create items that are appealing to a broad audience. This ensures that the items that we are crafting will quickly sell and therefore give us that currency that we've put into crafting quickly back out to then go on and craft more items or use that currency for other purposes that we might have intentions for. And thirdly, we want to create items that are confusing to make. This is another great rule of profit because it ensures that we've got fewer competitors. There's simply less people who are producing these same items that are appealing to a broad audience and have a greater resale value than the cost of creation. For today's discussion, we are focusing on rule number 2, creating items that are appealing to a broad audience. Please keep this in mind as in a few moments we're going to ask you a hypothetical scenario where you're going to be able to choose your own adventure and choose your own crafting outcome. So keep in mind what our goal is today. We want to create items that will appeal to the broadest audience possible. We want to create appealing items for a broad audience, and one factor out of a 2-factor scenario in this new spectrum that we've got for this lesson today is price. We want to create something that has got the right price to attract a broad audience. Now in this circumstance, I've pulled up 3 items that have got a great price point that might attract a broad audience. After all, most players probably have got at least one jeweler orb to trade. However, that price point isn't going to be the thing that's going to convince players to purchase a level 1 Perforate skill gem, an Ezomite Peak Iron Hat, or a Freezing Decimation Bow that's got 4 links on it. One jeweler's orb is simply not enough of an enticement at that price point for this low level of power on these particular items. So we need to craft something that's got a great price point, but it also needs to match a second quality, the first being price and the second being power. Power is the second equation in our price power spectrum that we are looking at as we are creating items that appeal to a broad audience. In these couple of items that we've pulled up here for an example, these particular items are incredibly powerful. This particular jeweled foil is just ridiculous. The DPS on it, the physical DPS on it is over 500 for a one-hander. It's just out of this world in terms of damage. This particular chess piece is simply amazing. The number of tier 1 rolls on it, it's got attacks have critical strike chance on it. It's got socketed attacks have minus to total mana cost. And then on top of that, it's got a resistance and life. This particular wand has got +1 level to all spell skill gems and then +1 level to all chaos spell skill gems. The power level on these particular items are simply incredible. The problem here, though, is that the price point is going to be too high to appeal to a broad audience. So we need to factor in both of these things. We need to create items that are sufficiently powerful to draw our audience's attention, but that are priced at a point in which our audience has access to pay us for crafting these particular items. Something that is too cheap but not powerful isn't desirable, and something conversely that's too powerful and therefore too expensive is also undesirable. We want to find that exact sweet spot, that overlapping Venn diagram of where price and power both meet and overlap. This is what we're calling the price-power tension. We want to find that tension in a sweet spot in a market because that's where most buyers are interested. Most buyers, from a buying psychological perspective, aren't interested in buying something that is less powerful than what they could otherwise afford or is too expensive for what they think they should be paying. We want our craft to be strong enough to be desired and affordable enough to be purchased. So this means a couple of things. Our equation for creating items that will be appealing to a broad audience requires a few inputs. First, we need to have knowledge of the market. We need to know exactly what the market is doing for the price points of various going rates of items, whether that's crafting materials, whether that's end product of those crafting materials on a finished item. We also need to know the meta. We need to know what players are choosing to play in order to create items that will appeal to a broad audience. When you put together the knowledge of the market with the knowledge of the meta, you then can come away as a more educated crafter yourself and have knowledge of your audience and of your competition. So let's get into today's example scenario, and in just a few moments, I'm going to ask you to provide what options you would choose in the given scenario. Please remember that this is a hypothetical scenario. This is not descriptive of the league that we are presently in, and none of these examples are live examples. I feel like I have to say this every time we talk about crafting or pricing. These are general principles that you can apply regardless of the meta. I would much rather teach you and hopefully learn alongside with you about what are the general principles for making currency in Path of Exile, and then taking those principles and applying them in a particular league, rather than just showing you a particular trade and then realizing down the road that that particular trade doesn't result in the same yields in the future. That is one of the reasons why we use hypothetical examples for our discussion pieces. So this is a hypothetical league, and we're going to say that the meta during this example is a self-casting spell league. Pretend for a moment that self-casting spells are the dominant meta this particular hypothetical league. 30% of the league are using 2 different skill gems for their main 6-link damage setup. Both of these setups scale well with skill gem levels. 50% of these players, which would be about 15% of the total league, are either dual wielding wands or they are wielding wands plus shields for their setup. 90% of these players, so 27% of the league, are using rare body armors, and 10% of these players, or roughly only 3% of the league, are using uniques in their chess piece. In a moment, we're going to give you 3 options to choose from and then pick the best option that best fits our goals for today's example. Please remember, our goal is to create appealing items for the broadest audience possible. Keep that in mind as you make your selection. Let's go take a look at our options. We've got 3 options to choose from as we are crafting in this hypothetical league. First off, we could craft a wand with +1 to level of all spell skill gems. Secondly, we could corrupt a unique chess piece for +1 of socketed gems. Or option C, thirdly, we could craft a rare 6-link chess piece with +1 to level of socketed support gems. Keep in mind that price power tension spectrum that we talked about earlier, that we want to create an item that has got both affordable price and sufficient power to attract our buyer. Hello and welcome all of you who chose option A. You chose to craft a wand with the +1 to level of all spell skill gems. Congratulations, you've made a choice that will appeal to at least 15% of the meta audience. This will be a desirable item due to a relatively affordable cost of this particular wand and the relatively high power for the meta builds in this hypothetical league. This is great news. This means that you've selected something that users in this meta who are set up with either wand plus shield or dual wielding wands may want to craft. If you can continually repeat this craft over and over, you might find yourself actually pushing into an audience that is dual wielding, where you can craft 2 of these wands and sell them 2 at a time rather than 1 at a time, depending on how high of a demand there is in that league. Regardless of whether the league is hypothetical or actual, if you can be making items that are going to appeal to 15% of the league audience, that is going to ensure you plenty of business for the duration of the league, where players are looking at one another's builds, looking at the meta builds, and then trying to copy or create or make some sort of alterations to a build that is already presently shaping itself up to be a dominant meta build choice. For crafting, this means that we're applying our knowledge of the meta with our knowledge of the market to make items that are appealing to a broad audience inside that particular league meta. Well, welcome if you selected option B, corrupt a 6-link unique chess piece for +1 of socketed gems. To quote Bannon, "What in damnation have you done?" You've purchased several different 6-linked unique chess pieces, and you've yet to hit a single +1 socketed gems on those corruptions. Now you are considering selling off all of the rest of your other characters' gear and simply farming the chaos recipe in tier 1 maps for the rest of the league. Even if you do hit this corruption, which is highly unlikely that you will, it will only be appealing for about 3% of the league who are using unique chess pieces. And even then, a smaller percentage of that 3% can actually afford the huge price point that you are going to put on this item that justified all of those other failed unique corruptions. Remember that we are aiming to create and craft items that will appeal to a broad audience. Even if this particular option wasn't necessarily so risky as corrupting something and potentially bricking the item and losing all of your crafting costs on that particular item, even if it was safer than that, we are still creating something for a relatively niche market that isn't going to necessarily turn over very quickly, giving us our currency back to then go out and generate more items, more currency, or make other decisions with that crafting currency moving forward. A special message out there for all of you who are dropping me comments down below saying, "Yeah, but Iron, I actually hit the corruption and now look at how wealthy I am." Congratulations, you are incredibly wealthy if you find a particular person. All you need is one buyer. There aren't a massive pool of buyers in this particular scenario with only 3% of the league using this unique chess piece. But really, you only need one buyer to come and purchase that particular unique chess piece off of you in order for you to be swimming in exalts for the rest of the league. So sure, it's an incredibly high payoff if you hit it. But if you don't hit it, then you're not creating items that will appeal to a broad audience that will quickly turn over for you. Instead, what you've done is you've tied up a bunch of your currency into these particular types of very highly risky crafts, and then you've got to wait even once you do have it actually successfully crafted until the right buyer comes along to scoop up your item and shower you in exalts. Well, welcome if you chose option C, which was to craft a rare 6-link chess piece with +1 to level of socketed support gems. Just in time, Exile, congratulations. You've chosen to go with the craft that will appeal to the single broadest audience in the hypothetical meta scenario we've described. At the best price, with the most power, this item is going to be appealing to a wide audience. With 27% of the league using rare chess pieces, you'll be competing with a great many other crafters, so be aware of that. The price point on this particular item may fluctuate, but you will never run out of buyers for your exceptional craft that has hit the sweet spot on the price, power, tension spectrum. While there's risk to voling your item, like in option B, there is a risk to get into this sort of meta crafting as well. There are lots of different competitors who are all looking at the same data of the market and the meta as you are. So your success in terms of creating items that will be profitable to sell to a broad audience is going to depend on exactly how quickly you can turn around this item multiple times and then resell it to then recreate it. The broader audience that you've got, the better chances that someone will be PMing you for this item as soon as you list it, and then you can turn around and use that currency again for however you would choose to, maybe even continuing down with the same line of crafting for the future to then continue to go ahead and make profit. When you have a broad audience that is interested in items that you can reliably create, you know for a fact that you can make currency in that league. Thank you so much for watching and participating in today's episode of POE Business 102. Which option did you choose? Go ahead and leave us a comment down below and let us know whether or not you selected option A, B, or C. And then tell us, why did you choose the option that you selected? What was your thought process going into that option? Were there other factors that we didn't discuss? Were there maybe other previous history or previous leagues where you've had success and made you more open to taking bigger risks, or maybe made you more risk averse? Thirdly, make an argument against your own selection and let us know what that argument is down below in the comments. In what circumstances would you have not chosen that selection? Feel free to drop any of your feedback that you've got for us down below in the comments as well. And stay tuned for next time when we will be discussing creating items that are confusing and very profitable to make. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope today is the day a Mirror of Calandra drops for you. Thanks for watching that video. If you'd like more information on any of our discussion points today, you can see them down below in the video description. If you'd also like to join our Discord or support our Patreon, you can do so with the links down below. Thanks again, and big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters.